Hello and welcome once again. My name is Natty Cash, and we are here today to continue the Ultimate March Madness tournament. I'm going to show you where we're at so far. If you haven't seen any of the videos previous to this, please check in the description below. There is a link to the first part of this series. We are at number 10 right now. If you have been following along, let's get you caught up on exactly what you are at or where we are at right now. So we are halfway through all of the regional brackets here. We had Florida get through the Southwest region here, and we're going to then look at the second half of all our regions, starting with the New England region that's going to be hosted in Boston, Massachusetts. And as we look at the New England region, we're going to start with our number one seed, one of the big favorites of the tournament, the Yukon Huskies, being first in the Big East, coming out as league champions. They are one team to watch to see how far they can go in a tournament of this style. Their opponent they are waiting on, which will be a matchup between the Southern University Jaguars and the Bison from North Dakota State. The Jaguars play in the SWAC region. We're fourth in their league with an 18-14 record overall. And the Bison of North Dakota State were fifth in the Summit League with a 15-17 record. As we continue down, the ninth seed is going to be the Rockets from Toledo, first in the MAC conference. Unfortunately, got eliminated early in their conference tournament. Let's see what they can do now in that 9 spot. Their first matchup is going to be up against the Yellow Jackets of Georgia Tech in the ACC. A 14-18 record overall. Not so great in the ACC, but let's see what they can do up against Toledo in the first round. As we continue forward, we see the number 5 seed going to be the Dons of San Francisco University. Third in the West Coast Conference, losing out to Gonzaga in their tournament. Let's see what they can do. Sitting in a 5 seed could be a good, strong position for them to move forward in. You see a 12 seed position. It's going to have to be filled between the winner of the Vandals of Idaho or the Temple Owls. The Big Sky Idaho Vandals, 9th, coming from the Big Sky Conference, with an 11-21 record, and the Temple Owls a 16-20 record out of the American Athletic Conference, 11th. But what they did do is they made a long run in their conference tournament this year. Let's see if they can make a long run in this tournament as well. As we venture downward, we see the 13 seed is also a play-in game between the Knights of Bellarmine and the Red Foxes from Marist. The Bellarmine Knights did not have a great overall season, 8-23 record, and 12th in the Atlantic Sun. But let's see what they have to offer here up against the Mid-Atlantic Athletic Conference, third place Marist Red Foxes with an 18-13 record. Let's see what happens there. Whoever wins that game will have to move forward to play the Hawkeyes of Iowa with a 19-15 record. Good enough for 7th in the Big Ten. They lost out early in the Big Ten Conference tournament, but let's see what they can do sitting in a strong 4-seed position. As we move into the bottom half of our bracket, we see our number 3 seed will be filled in by the Nevada Wolfpack, a 26-8 record team out of the Mountain West, good for 2nd. They too also had an early exit in their conference championship, so let's see where they can go from here. Their opponent is upcoming between the Wagner Seahawks and the Spartans of Norfolk State. The Seahawks play in the Northeast Conference. They had a 17-16 record, and they did well in their conference championship, moving all the way and becoming the Northeast Conference champions. So they could be a tough task in this 14 slot. The Norfolk State Spartans out of the MEAC Conference did well in their overall season, 24-11, first in the MEAC Conference, but lost out in their conference championship to Howard. So 2 potentially strong teams in that 14 slot. As we move forward, we see the 11th slot with Holy Cross Crusaders with a 10-23 record out of the Patriot League. Eventually lost to the strong team of Colgate. They're up against the Fairfield Stags, second out of the Mid-Atlantic Conference, with a 24-13 record. We'll see who can come up out of that game and face our number 6 team, which is going to be the Cornell Big Red out of the Ivy League. 22-8 record, good enough for third in the Ivy League, and unfortunately lost out to Yale in the conference tournament. Let's see what they can do now with a position in that 6th slot. We see then the 7th slot going to the Indiana Hoosiers, the 1914 record, 6th in the Big Ten. They will be awaiting their opponent between either the Detroit Mercy Titans and the Missouri Tigers. The Titans of Detroit Mercy had a historically bad season with only 1 win on their record and 31 losses. They are then up against the 8-24 Missouri Tigers. They also didn't do well in the SEC either, so it'll be interesting to see if one of these teams can get that win over and maybe make it into a run. The 15th seed is going to be filled by either the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders or the Pepperdine Waves. You see the Blue Raiders coming out of the Conference USA with a 14-19 record. And you have the Pepperdine Waves coming out of the West Coast Conference, good enough for 8th in that conference with a 13-20 record. Whoever wins, regardless, does have to face our number 2 seed, the Texas Longhorns, with a 21-13 record. That was good enough for 7th in a strong Big 12. Let's see what they can do now as a potential favorite coming out of this conference, sitting in that 2 seed. And so there you have it. You have the entire bracket seen here from top to bottom. If you have a prediction, please put it down in the description below, and let's see if that comes true. Let's go one step at a time through each of the first round and see who comes out of the New England region. First up, as we look at the top half, we are going to have the Jaguars of Southern University up against the North Dakota State Bison as our first matchup in this bracket. And we see a very back and forth game, many lead changes. You see right to the very end, we will have the Bison of North Dakota State getting the victory here. But as you can see, back and forth, with Southern University leading just after halftime, all the way to the end to get a close 1-point victory. So as we can see, the Bison of North Dakota State will be moving on to play the Yukon Huskies. Further down, we're going to now see the Vandals of Idaho University up against the Temple Owls. And as we can see, it is the Vandals that get the victory here. Early on, Temple did have a lead, but right about a halftime is about a 5-point lead for Idaho, and they never looked back, maintaining that lead all the way to the finish to get a 10-point victory. So that sees Idaho moving on to play San Francisco in the next round. Our next matchup is going to be the Bellarmine Knights up against the Red Foxes from Marist. And it is Bellarmine that get the victory here. As you can see, they took a very early lead and maintained that lead all the way through to their first round victory. Congrats for Bellarmine, they are moving on. And so as we can see, Bellarmine moves forward, is our 13 position, and they are moving into a matchup against the Hawkeyes from Iowa. As we move to the bottom of the bracket, we will then see the Seahawks from Wagner up against the Norfolk State Spartans. And we do see the Spartans moving on in this matchup. It was close throughout the first half, but you could start to see a 4-point lead for Norfolk State around halftime, but that continues forward, and they build on that lead to get a fairly comfortable victory in the end. Congrats to them. So as we can see, the Spartans have moved forward, and they are up against Nevada in their next matchup. As we move further down, our next matchup will be the Holy Cross Crusaders up against the Fairfield Stags. And as we see, it is Holy Cross that gets the victory here. They are leading early, but Fairfield did well to close the gap and get a lead just shortly into the second half. But after a while, Holy Cross does get another lead and maintains that all the way to a victory. So as we see, the Holy Cross Crusaders move on as they are going to play Cornell in their next matchup. We have a couple more matchups in the first round still. The next one is the Titans of Detroit Mercy up against the Missouri Tigers. And as we see here, we have the Missouri Tigers getting the victory. They had a lead, and even though Detroit kept it close for a good part of the game, it was the Tigers that were able to come away with the first victory for them in this tournament. So Missouri does move forward to play the Indiana Hoosiers in the next matchup. Our final matchup in the first round is the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders up against the Pepperdine Waves. And what looks to be a big comeback, it is Pepperdine that comes away with the victory here. You see that at halftime, it was about a 9-point lead for Middle Tennessee. They had done well to get to that point, but Pepperdine just chipped away and was able to get the lead. Middle Tennessee did have one last push to try to take the lead away, but Pepperdine did then get one more offensive surge and get the 5-point victory in the end. So as you can see, we are moved past the first round. We have the last 16 teams left in this region. We will start again from the top, where we will have the Yukon Huskies up against the North Dakota State Bison. And it is the Huskies that take care of business in their first game. You see a kind of close matchup to begin with, but Yukon slowly pulls away and continues to do so up until they get the 19-point victory. And so we see Yukon moving on to the next round. They will await their opponent, which will be between the Toledo Rockets and the Yellow Jackets of Georgia Tech. And as you can see, we have the Yellow Jackets getting the victory here. They take the lead early on. Toledo does close the gap to 1 point, but even from the first half, you're seeing Georgia Tech pull away, and they never look back on the way to their first victory of this tournament. And with that, we see Georgia Tech moving on to the next round. Our next matchup will be the San Francisco Dons versus the Idaho Vandals. And it is the Vandals that get the upset victory here. They were leading into the first half, most of the first half, with an 8-point victory, continued all the way to, and even with a offensive surge by San Francisco, still kept maintaining the lead and had a great upset victory for their second win of the tournament. Congrats to the Vandals. With Idaho getting the upset victory, they will be awaiting their matchup between either the Bellarmine Knights or the Iowa Hawkeyes. And this was a very close game, a lot closer than what people would expect. Back and forth, but we do see Iowa coming away with the 2-point victory in the end. They led most of the second half, but Bellarmine had one last push and did tie it up. But one last basket for Iowa made the difference for them to move on to the next round. So with the first two quarterfinal matchups in this region set, we move down to the second half of the bracket, starting with the Wolfpack of Nevada up against the Spartans from Norfolk State. And as we see, it is the Wolfpack that get the resounding victory. They took a strong lead and never looked back all the way to a 25-point victory. Good job for the Wolfpack to get the first win on the board for them. And with Nevada moving forward, they'll be awaiting their next opponent, which will be between the Holy Cross Crusaders or the Cornell Big Red. And it is Cornell that get the resounding victory. They take an early lead and never look back, pushing forward for a 22-point victory to get their first win on the board in this tournament. And now we move down to the very bottom of the bracket where we're seeing the Indiana Hoosiers up against the Missouri Tigers. And this was a very close matchup, back and forth, many lead changes, but then Indiana was able to create a lead in the second half and never relinquish it all the way to their first victory in this tournament. And finally, with Indiana moving forward, we have our last matchup of this round, which is going to be between the Pepperdine Waves and the Texas Longhorns. And this was a very close matchup, back and forth. Pepperdine almost did it again where they were down and then came back to win it. But in this scenario, they didn't have enough to win it here, and the Longhorns get the 4-point victory in the end. So as you can see, here are the last 8 teams left to play in the regional quarterfinals. One surprise so far, but maybe we'll see some more as we continue. But the first matchup, we will see the favorites of the Yukon Huskies up against the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. And once again, it is the Huskies that get a decisive victory here. They never lost the lead throughout this matchup and pushed on forward to get a resounding 17-point victory. So as we see with Yukon moving on to the next round, they will be awaiting their semifinal opponent between the surprising Idaho Vandals and the Iowa Hawkeyes. And this is where the Vandals end their run as the Hawkeyes decisively take care of them. They have a lead early on in the first half, but then continue forward and build onto that lead in the second half to create a fairly resounding win in the end. And Iowa is the team moving on. And now we have Iowa moving forward. We have one semifinal matchup set. We will then see what the bottom half of the bracket gives us, starting with the Nevada Wolfpack and the Cornell Big Red. And we see here a resounding win for the Wolfpack, although there was some back and forth in the first half, and Nevada was only up by about 3 by halftime. But then they continued on, built on a lead, and never looked back to get another win in this tournament. With Nevada moving on, they will be awaiting their next opponent, which will be between the Indiana Hoosiers and the Texas Longhorns. And this was a close one, but it is the Longhorns that get the victory here. They took the lead and never really relinquished it, although Indiana late on had an offensive rush to push it to within 1, but the Longhorns held on for the victory to move into the regional semifinals. So as we can see, all top 4 teams moved on into the semifinals. All of them could be strong contenders to win the entire region, but we'll see one game at a time, starting off with the Yukon Huskies and the Iowa Hawkeyes. And this was a close matchup. Many lead changes throughout. At halftime, looks like Iowa had about a 2-point victory, and they built that lead into the second half, but Connecticut, right, is strong enough that they pushed on, got a lead late, and finished them off with a 5-point victory to move on to the regional finals. So with Yukon moving on, we have one other semifinal to determine, which will be between the Nevada Wolfpack and the Texas Longhorns. And as we can see, it is the Longhorns that get the victory. Another close semifinal matchup with many lead changes. It is Texas that starts to get a lead in the second half. Even though Nevada pushes it close many times, they cannot take the lead again, and it is the Longhorns moving on to the regional finals. And as we get to the regional finals, we have one last matchup remaining, which is the top 2 seeds. When we've seen the top 2 seeds interact, the top seed has won twice and the second seed has won once. So let's see what happens here. It is the Texas Longhorns that get the victory here. Another close matchup, as you can see here. We'll have back and forth. As we can see, many lead changes, but it is Texas that gain a lead in the second half and kind of push that lead and eventually finish off with a 10-point victory. And as you can see, Texas is the New England regional winner, moving on to the Sweet 16 of teams here. They are just the fourth number 2 seed to move on, as now there are more number 2 seeds than there are number 1 seeds. So with that, Texas has moved on. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you that watch and tune in and have been patient, as this has been a long time for me to get this series through. Thank you so much for watching. The next video that will be coming out will be the California region, set up in Sacramento. Thank you so much. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.